Well, gracious greetings, St. Stephen family and guests. Welcome to another edition of Living Water for Thirsty Thursday. I want more. Yeah, the last couple of weeks we've talked about the same old, trying to overcome apathy, boredom, and complacency that could lead to distraction and depression. We talked about last week, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. We talked about that traffic light of life and how we can't get stuck on the yellow. It's the shortest portion of the traffic light. We need to either start some things with the green or stop some things with the red. But today we want to continue talking about this a little bit more in that area of I want more. Prayerfully, your takeaways today will be that of wanting more capabilities, wanting more cash, and wanting more control. The scripture that I want to read comes from the book of Philippians. It's the 4th chapter, and it starts at the 11th verse. It says, "Not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned in whatsoever state I am in, therewith to be content." Now, this passage that we want to unpack a little bit today speaks to Paul saying, you know what, there's something that I've learned how to do. And that is, I have learned how to be good with wherever God has me. So what are we saying? When I say I want more, wanting more in and of itself, whether it is capabilities, cash, or control. I'm in the sanctuary because we want more space. We want a larger house. We want a better car. We want more degrees. We want the temperature to be cooler. We want the temperature to be hotter. We want a pool in the backyard. We want all of these different things. We want kids. We want a dog. There's just so many things that we want more of. Well, what Paul is trying to get us to see is the issue isn't as much of having more. That's not necessarily the problem. The problem or the challenge that we have is not being able to balance having more and or less. Meaning for us to be in a healthy place, we have to allow the ability of having more to be counterbalanced with the ability to have less. And so when we read this text, that's exactly what he is speaking of. Because if we don't learn how to have less, then the lack of having more can move us to that place of apathy, boredom, complacency, distraction, depression. It can put us in that place of the caution light where we're in the yellow place of decision and indecision, if you would, for far too long. So he says, listen, not that I don't speak in respect of want, not saying that there aren't things that I want. They're not saying things that I don't want more of, just like we do. We do want more, and wanting more is a healthy thing. We should aspire. We should desire. We should actually do all we can, persevere to get to those things. However, it has to be counterbalanced. He says, for I have learned, and that is experiential, is what he's talking about. So I got to go through some things. I have learned in whatsoever, meaning either side of the coin, the state I am, therewith to be content. And content is just another way of saying, God, I'm cool with where you have me at. This next verse, I didn't read it, but it breaks all of this down. It kind of sounds like a little bit of a riddle, but when you take your time through it, it makes sense. He says, I know both how to be abased, brought down low, and I know how to abound, to be brought high and to jump high, to leap high. He says, listen, everywhere and in all things, it doesn't matter whether I'm a spouse or I'm a single, whether I have a lot or I have a little, it just doesn't matter. Every situation I find myself, I am instructed. I have learned that I have been taught, and this is a mandate that God has laid before us, both to be full and to be hungry. Yeah, it's huge. And so hunger would not be hunger if we didn't know what full was. And full would not be what full was if we didn't know what hunger is. Same way with love and hate or evil. What makes love really rich is the fact really that hate exists. And so when someone says, I love you, but at the same time, they could say, I don't like you or I hate you. that empowers love even more, if you would. That's what he's getting at. What he's speaking towards. He says both to abound and to suffer need. And so prayerfully, what you're gleaning from this is, yes, it's okay to want more cash. It's okay to want more capabilities. It's okay to even want to be in more control. But at the same time, when you learn about having less control, when you have less cash, when you have less capabilities, we have to be good with that too. We can't be so upset that we don't have more that we can't deal with less. And so that is really what Paul is pushing here. And in the 13th verse, I'll close out with this. It kind of brings it all together. It says, and I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. So even though we don't think we can do more with less, just know I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Well, tune in next week as we continue this. We're going to talk about it from a different angle. Have you ever heard of the sweet spot? Yeah, it's talked about in baseball. Look that up, and we're going to talk about the difference between, or the relationship between, discipline and balance. Well, continue to make God proud in all you say, think, and do. And I pray now you have a balance with you wanting more. Make it a great week.